I don't know anybody else that fits that Mel Tucker mold. I mean, he honestly seems like a one of one.
Dude gets players, period.
I'll tell you this, he is recruiting with an energy at Michigan State I've never seen anyone recruit with there.
Everything has been a sign of hitting the ground running. He's checked almost every single box that one could have expected in a short amount of time.
What a tremendous job Michigan State's head coach has done in his second year. And here he is, the man who's leading the Spartans into this undefeated battle. Why have you guys gelled into such a cohesive team this quickly?
You know, I think Coach Tuck does a great job with that.
Look out for Sparty. Mel Tucker is doing some special things there in East Lansing.
My dream was to come back here and be the head coach. That was my dream.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Brian Mosallam, along with my co-host Justin Thind from 247 Sports. How you doing, Justin? You are looking live inside the locker room. What's going on, Justin?
It's good. The sleep deprivation hasn't hit in yet. We're still on the first day of June. I have not had to grind out 17 visit updates just yet, but the busy time is ahead. Excited to be here to talk about it.
Why is there sleep deprivation?
Oh, you'll see. 42 visitors. That's why.
You know, I don't think most people understand that recruiting, the month of June is the most important month when it comes to recruiting. It's amazing how the cycle has changed, right, over the years.
Yeah.
Right? June and July used to be times off for coaches, but now because of the early signing period, June is the biggest month as it relates to recruiting. And boy, oh boy, we got a big recruiting weekend ahead, don't we, guys?
We absolutely do. We have, I guess, first overall, just talking about June, 42 recruits are expected to make their way to East Lansing that are publicly announced already. One of them is an unofficial, 41 are official visits. We have a list, obviously, on Spartan Tailgate, but just looking at the highlights, I had that article today where we kind of dove into them on a surface level, but they have 29 four-star prospects in East Lansing.
29 four-star prospects.
In the month of June. And
wow.
Keep in mind, some of them, so they have 4 four-star prospects already committed. If they land 7 of these 29 that are visiting, they will tie the most 4-stars they've ever landed. So to repeat that, if they land 7 of the 29 people that are visiting that are 4-stars, they will land 11 4-stars, which is the most they've ever landed. So just looking at the first weekend here that you guys see up on the screen, some big time names.
Tell me about Hicks and Burley and Wayne.
Yeah, so the names at the top of this list are obviously the 2 5-stars and obviously an unofficial visiting 5-star in Jaden Wayne. But yeah, so David Hicks, Vic Burley, Jaden Wayne, Brandon Jordan, guys right there. All 3 of them defensive linemen. All 3 of them are monitoring the NFL. They know all these guys like TJ Watt and Max Crosby, Rashawn Gary, Hassan Reddick. They know who trained them. They know that Brandon Jordan is the guy that can get them to that level. And that's why Michigan State has a shot with all of them. You know, they have a lot of suitors. I know David Hicks, he has Texas A&M, and we know what they can do with the resources they have over there. But, like, at the end of the day...
Talk about the resources that they...
I don't need Jimbo telling me I should have been slapped. But, yeah, so essentially, like, a lot of fans...
They have bags of resources? Huh?
No, it's the sunny scenery in College Station, Brian. How could they ever do something like paying a player?
I mean, it's utopia.
Yeah,
College Station.
It is.
College Station, Texas is utopia.
Santa Monica, Paris, France, College Station. You're all in the same boat. But yeah, so like when it comes to David Hicks, he's a guy that, yes, he has those Texas A&M. He has the Texas A&M attention. They're willing to put resources on him. But a guy like Hicks, his dad has been around the NFL. They know that it's not wise to always prioritize the short-term return over maybe who can get you to the NFL, who can train you, and who's training the best right now. So because of that, I know some Michigan State fans are skeptical about landing a guy like David Hicks, and obviously it's not going to be an easy battle. But this is a guy that relationship with Brandon Jordan and the long-term payoff that would come from that should offset maybe some of the resources that Texas A&M might be willing to put in there. And then Vic Burley and Jaden Wayne, those are 2 guys making their first trips to East Lansing. Both of them really drawn to Brandon Jordan's development. Marco Coleman also doing a nice job there. But yeah, so a lot of exciting exciting times here in terms of defensive line recruiting, and that comes from Brandon Jordan.
I mean, let's talk for a second about the O-line, right?
Yeah.
So we got Sanker visiting, O'Mara visiting. What's your take on those two?
Yeah, so Madden Sanker is probably Coach Cap's top interior offensive line target. He's a guy that can come in and play right away. There's going to be a need for him to come in and play right away because J.D. Duplain is going to be graduating. And then right guard, you hope that there's an answer already on the roster. I think Gino Vandermark could be good there. But you have an immediate need at guard, and you have a guard here that's able to come in and play right away and step in for J.D. Duplain next year. I think he would be well-suited to commit to Michigan State. And then after that, you're looking at Sham Umarov. He's an offensive tackle that is down to LSU, Georgia, Michigan State, and Tennessee. And again, he's a guy that, just like everyone else, Coach Cap seems to be recruiting here at tackle, is a 4-star, top 300 kind of guy, somebody that is not going to drag out the process for no reason. He's going to take his 4 visits, not even take a 5th one, commit sometime this summer, and Michigan State has a fighting chance there, just like everybody.
So how about, we got the Bell tight end Thurman visiting.
Yes. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about those two guys.
Yeah, so a lot of the attention goes to the guys that are the highest ranked, the guys we've already talked about. But Jelani Thurman, who he's actually as high as ranked as anybody, he's Michigan State's top target at tight end. His mom and her side of the family is from Jackson, Michigan, even though he plays down in Georgia.
Oh, from Jackson.
Yeah,
huh?
yeah. His mom is.
How'd they end up down there?
So his parents are both alums of UGA.
Okay.
But his mom was Kara Braxton, who played for the Detroit Shock WNBA.
Sure.
So, yeah, the family would be very comfortable coming back up here. And obviously, Michigan State, it's been a while since they've had a solidified tight end. So the opportunity is there for the taking with him. And then you kind of start going down the list. And Chance Rucker, he's one of the top targets for Michigan State at cornerback right now, down from Texas. Michigan State has gotten him up here for 2 unofficials already this summer, or I should say this spring and this winter. And, yeah, you just keep going. Jalen Braxton, another 4-star corner from Texas. And Demetrius Bell is one of only 2 wide receivers visiting Michigan State in June. So clearly the staff is very selective there, and he's one of the few that fit the mold of what they're looking for.
So this obviously has been very intentional who they're targeting.
Absolutely.
In our lifetime, have we seen this type of star power come to East Lansing in June? Well, I'm 48, so my lifetime's a little different than yours, but
yeah,
this is really unprecedented.
It really is.
What Mel Tucker has done here has made MSU a destination spot.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not a stepping stone.
Yeah.
And it's just incredible how you got kids coming from the Pacific Northwest. You have kids paying their own way to come here.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that. Like when you talk to these recruits and their families, what are they, when they come here, what are they expecting?
Yeah. So like the way I kind of explain it to people that are always kind of on the pessimistic side, and they reply to like my tweet and they say, yeah, it's cool who's visiting, but if they don't commit, it doesn't matter. This right here, you landing one of a recruit's 5 official visits is a concrete barometer of what your program's perception is like across the nation. When you have kids from the Pacific Northwest, kids from SEC country, kids from Texas, all coming up here and choosing you as one of their official visit spots, that is a concrete
Texas
indicator.
A&M without the bag? Just curious. I'm just curious.
But yeah, so when you have kids from all those parts of the country coming here, giving you one of your 5 officials, and in some cases coming over here on their own dime, that means something. And I don't care if they haven't committed yet. I don't care how many of them don't commit. For that to be the perception and for that to be happening right now in itself is a concrete barometer of where this program currently sits.
Have you ever seen the excitement around just because talking to these families and hearing a lot of these kids are coming because of one person, Mel Tucker, and the energy and excitement he's built around the program. Have you ever seen anything like that? No, it's
quite surreal, honestly, because when you saw that.
Tell me surreal. What do you mean by surreal? Because I agree with you. I've never known much about recruiting, but he's made this obviously a 12-month season. Tell me about surreal.
Yeah. So first of all, I go back a few months when Michigan State had their spring game. They had it on the same day as Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama. and they had so many kids from SEC country make their way up here. That was the first huge kind of marker of the 23 class was going to have a lot of momentum behind it. Now you look at the present day. You look at the 41 people that are scheduled to come here on official visits. You look at who their other contenders are that did not get an official visit from them. You can even compare this to Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, and all of those schools. And yeah, they might still be ahead of Michigan State in terms of the star power that they have. But look at anybody below that tier. Anyone that hasn't won a national title yet, and Mel Tucker's fleet of kids that are coming up here are already ahead of those guys. After one good season and the culture that everyone is resonating with and the staff he has put together and the energy around the program. Those factors have Michigan State ahead of basically everyone other than a title contender of the past few years after such a short time.
That's incredible. I mean, he talked about after the Ohio State game how we're going to close the gap. It's going to be in recruiting. And he's obviously had an emphasis on recruiting. He knows what he wants. I remember talking to him. He said, big hands, big feet, big heads. Right? So if it was that simple.
Yeah.
Coach, if that was that simple, you would sign my son right now. Who's
Just tell me to put the crystal ball
2031. You want to put the crystal ball on my son?
Let's make the profile.
But it's definitely, the perception has definitely changed. There's absolutely no question about it. When you hear about all across the country, Mel Tucker. You know, it's something that's I find to be
and this isn't just us kind of saying this based on what we're hearing. You can go on the site, you can look at who's taking official visits where, go to every school's official visitors tab, see how many have 42 people coming, see what their star power is looking like. There might be a handful of schools ahead of Michigan State right now, not much more. And Saeed Khalif, I forgot which outlet he gave this quote to, but he gave a quote a few months ago. He said that they have already noticed that they're getting responses and attention back from kids that just a few months ago they were not hearing from. So this is them experiencing this change in perception too. It's not just our opinions.
Wow. Go back to the unofficial of Jaden Wayne.
Yeah.
Right? Which I think speaks volumes.
Right.
So Jaden Wayne, tell us a little bit about him and him taking an official visit here.
Yeah.
Which I think is it culturally changed the whole dynamics of the organization.
So Jaden Wayne, he's a kid from the Pacific Northwest out there in Washington. He's a kid that shortly after he was offered, I want to say the very next morning after he was offered, he edited his top schools graphic and put Michigan State in there, despite it being just the beginning of his recruitment from Michigan State. And that happened because of the Brandon Jordan effect. That was after BT Jordan was hired, and he knew the development that he would get from BT Jordan. So he's a kid that he's already thinking along the correct lines of where can I go where I can get the best possible development for the NFL and then go ahead and have a successful career. So Jaden Wayne is a guy that this is his first visit to Michigan State. It's in an unofficial capacity, and like you said, that's very impressive for a kid from across the nation to pay for his flight, pay for hotel and lodging for multiple nights, and come here on a multi-day unofficial visit. That speaks even more about his interest in the program than maybe even taking an official visit would right now, I would argue. So the interest that he has in Michigan State is significant. I don't know who the leaders are. I can't speculate so far on how good Michigan State's chances are. But with BT Jordan in the mix and with this level of interest being shown by Jaden Wayne, I think this is a recruit definitely worth paying attention to.
Let's get to that BT Jordan effect. I mean, what has he done? I mean, if you look at all, Andrew DePape, and you look at all that. Listen, there is a difference between earning NIL money and earning real money when you get to the league. Right? And if you're able to educate some of these younger men about, penny wise, pound foolish, taking an early, some money early, but really developing yourself to get to that first and second contract. And I mean, Brandon Jordan has made it. I mean, it's very clear how many NFL players train under his tutelage who have come to East Lansing. What kind of effect has Brandon Jordan had on the program?
It's unreal. I kind of want to say that, like, when BT Jordan was hired, this was like the best case scenario of what myself, Corey Robinson, and some of the other true believers in the hire thought would happen. And it has played out like a dream scenario. And you saw it in the beginning. Right after he took over, Andrew DePape came to Michigan State on the first possible junior day that was scheduled. He drove up here. He went back to his family, committed in the middle of next week. That's Michigan State's highest ranked out of region commitment in 7 years. In 7 years, 2 weeks after BT Jordan took over. So that's the effect he had in the immediate. And then as the offseason unfolded and his guys in the NFL got paid, Max Crosby got signed, TJ Watt got re-signed, and Rashawn Gary is having one of the better seasons of his career. And you kind of start seeing Pro Football Focus put out lists, 4 of the top 5 pass rushers in football last year.
Hold on, we get the number 1 punter in the NFL draft.
That's true. That's true.
So don't forget about that.
Yeah.
All right.
But so you have these guys that in the NFL are putting up massive, massive pass rushing numbers, and suddenly the recruits are seeing these while they're being recruited by BT Jordan. I'm sure he's doing a good job telling them what they can accomplish and what he has accomplished. And that has led to where we are here. We have 3 5-star defensive linemen visiting this weekend and tons of top 300 defensive linemen visiting this entire month.
So it really is going to take a lot of guidance from these younger generation about what can I make now?
Yes.
And what is my earning potential being trained under, tutelage of Mel Tucker, Brandon Jordan.
Right.
And it requires discipline and foresight.
Yep.
And I mean, if you talk about positioning for the league, I don't really understand any program when you look at Vic, you look at Marcus, and you look at BT Jordan.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, if you're a D lineman, edge rusher, inside 3 technique, what better school to go to?
Can name one. You have a decade.
Seriously?
Yeah, you have a decade of NFL experience.
Forget being a homer.
Yeah.
I'm being serious.
Yeah. Yeah, you have a decade of NFL experience from Marco Coleman. You have a decade of NFL experience from Kevin Vickerson. And you have 4 of the 5 best edge rushers in football being trained by Brandon Jordan. That right there are the 3 people in the defensive line room right now. So in terms of just looking at it factually and based on their resumes, you could make the argument that you would get the best possible pass rush development as a defensive lineman if you come to Michigan State. Now, will that transpire over the next few years? We'll see. But all we can go off of right now is what resume is in front of us.
Resume. Absolute resume. I mean, I think this is where I think the proper education, the great things that they're doing at MSU, right, about teaching financial wellness, about understanding NIL, providing platforms for these young men and women to make educated business decisions, forming LLCs, tax strategies, all these things. I think this is something that, when you look at the total package, MSU is offering. And so if you want to get to the league, come get coached by 25 years of experience and a defensive ends coach that's coaching some of the top pass rushers in the league.
Yeah.
So that's exciting times. This is a big, big month here. Month of June, no question about it.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next topic. Alan Haller, our new AD, right?
Yeah.
New AD talks about big changes coming to the Big Ten. So I reached out to Alan yesterday for a quote, and I asked him tell me a little bit about what's going on, and this is the quote that, Alan sent for me, which I appreciate, right? He said, and I quote, "College athletics is changing. At Michigan State, we have to constantly have an innovative mindset and be leaders in the new environment." And while that quote tells us nothing, it tells us a lot.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Tells us a lot. So, obviously, when I read that, I read realignment. Obviously, NCAA changed the rules and said that you no longer have to have divisions.
Yep.
You no longer have to. What else was it?
Yeah, that's the gist of it. So you don't have to have divisions if you want to host a conference title game anymore. So you don't have to have these lopsided divisions where the Big Ten East is defeating the Big Ten West every year.
It's been 8-0, right? Hasn't it been?
It has. Yep.
58-0 against Wisconsin. So, I think there's going to be conference realignment. I think there's going Do you think teams will head from the East to the West?
I think because you don't have to have divisions to have a conference title game, personally, I don't think you need divisions. That's what the Pac-12 is already doing this year. So all that's going to happen is the teams that finish first and second in the conference will play for the conference title game. So I'm actually hoping that the Big Ten follows suit with the Pac-12, where even though you can't change your schedules for this year, getting rid of deciding who plays in the conference title game by who wins each division, I hope the Big Ten would actually get rid of that this season. Because right now, if Michigan State finishes second in the Big Ten East under current rules, they're going to have to watch the team that finishes first go ahead and play the team that finishes first in the West. However, if the Big Ten does what the Pac-12 just announced last week, Michigan State could finish second in the Big Ten East and still go play in the title game.
Which is what I would prefer.
Yes.
I would prefer that we still play Ohio State.
Yeah.
We still play Penn State. We still play that team down the road. And then, may the top two teams play.
Exactly.
Obviously, the history of the East versus West has not worked out the way they thought.
Yep.
8-0 the East. It's amazing who put those things together.
Yeah.
Who came up with that alignment? That's what I want to know. Was that Delaney? How did that?
Even if it wasn't, he didn't do anything to stop it. So I think you can't put the blame on him.
There's no blame at all. But I think that's a great move in the right direction. I think A.D. Haller is right on top of it. He understands the dynamics. He understands what's changing. And I think it's there's always this thing about Michigan and Ohio State being the brand of the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm.
And I think A.D. Haller is going to change that.
Yeah.
I mean, I do.
Yeah.
A couple championships won't hurt either, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I think A.D. Haller knows what it takes to have a athletic department all pulling in the same direction. There's not going to be some of that infighting you see at other institutions across the college football, college basketball landscape. He's been part of the game. He's going to look out for the student athletes. And I think you said it well. It's going to be a time of elevating the Michigan State brand here under A.D. Haller.
Absolutely. Schedule release. Big Ten released some times here for the some of the games coming up.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Western Michigan at night on Labor Day weekend, Friday night. Do you prefer that to be a Friday night or Saturday afternoon?
I prefer to have as many night games as possible.
Why?
I can stay up late.
I can't.
Yeah.
I don't want to. I'm going to be bed by 9.
That's a shame.
Could be the age difference, but I can appreciate the Washington 7:30 Eastern start.
Agreed.
As opposed to the 10:30 when we played Arizona a few years ago. And what does this say about MSU's brand?
Yes.
When they released. Yeah, this is more about MSU's brand and Mel Tucker's brand right here.
This is a great segue to Mel Tucker's quote, because this is kind of my answer to it. He said, quote, "I think it's going to be great for our fans. Whatever time we have kickoff, we're going to be ready to go. But I think those times are going to be great for our fans. That's going to be great exposure for our program, for our university, and for our players. That's why players come to Michigan State, to play on huge stages like that. It's going to be fun." So basically, you're going to be seeing Michigan State playing on ESPN to start their season at 7 p.m. on Friday night. Friday night, that's when everyone's going to be dying to see college football come back. So you're one of the first games of the entire season, 7 o'clock at night at home again on ESPN. Then fast forward 2 weeks from there, you're playing a night game on ABC at
Hold on, let's
time.
go back to the Zips of Akron.
True, so don't overlook anybody.
That is going to be a dandy.
Joe Moorhead.
That's it.
Joe Moorhead. Got a bright offensive mind coming to town.
But go to Washington.
So now we got Washington. You have you get to showcase your program on the road against the recruiting areas that you're now pulling from.
Oh, we're pulling from the Pacific
Jaden
Northwest.
Wayne, Caleb Presley, others.
Yes.
So you're gonna have a night game Eastern time, 7:30 p.m. at Washington, and then the only fourth one that's announced here is you have a Wisconsin team that you're going to be playing at 3:30 or 4, and that's what you want. You don't want that at noon. And
why?
You might want that at noon.
Earlier.
I wake up at noon, so that's not going to work for me.
Earlier. I don't tailgate. I'm too nervous game days.
You probably don't like the schedule release. For me, this is
7:30 I can do on a Saturday. I can do, but I think this speaks to like what Tuck's building.
Yeah.
Right? About making MSU prime time. I think that the kids, the young men, the student athletes love playing at night.
Yeah.
Okay, because there is. Now, that's a long day. That's also a hard day, right? You wake up at the Kellogg, and you got a whole day of sitting around. So if you ever played, you never really liked night games. I mean, the kids will like it nowadays, but back then, we viewed it as sitting around all day and waiting for that, so...
That's good insight.
Yeah,
because you don't think about it from the player side.
No, the player side. Back then, we loved noon games. Get it up, go play. Night game, you wake up, meetings, walk through, lunch, dinner, lay in your room, watch the 3:30, meetings, film, and it's just a long day. You can't wait to get out there.
So what do you like more, noon games or 3:30 games if you're a player? Is noon too early?
Are you on the road or at home?
Let's say at home.
At home, you want a 3:30 game.
Okay.
You want the crowd to be juiced up.
Yeah.
You want the crowd to be juiced up.
But I mean, in terms of your schedule, your personal readiness to play football, what do you think?
My personal readiness was noon.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, it was noon.
Okay.
Now, if you want a true home field advantage, it's a 3:30 game.
Makes sense.
When you're playing on the road, you want a noon game.
Yeah, of
That's
course.
what you want.
Yep.
When you're playing on the road, you do not want a 7:30 at night game.
Absolutely.
Now, it's fun. Don't get me wrong. But the crowds had all day to get juiced up. So it's look, if you build a program that follows a process, battle, build, and chop, it just doesn't matter what time you play.
That's true.
It doesn't. But it's really on the coaches and the preparation because they shift the whole schedule.
Yeah.
Right? So from a noon game to a 7:30 game, the schedule just changes. It just shifts. It just shifts. And then what is not fun is sitting around all day in the hotel waiting to play the game.
Yeah.
And then making that walk over at like 5:15 or 5 o'clock for a 7:30 game. Now, you're at home, you get juiced up, crowd's juiced.
Right.
First game's juice. You got Labor Day weekend.
Yeah.
On the road, 7:30. That's a 4:30 game. A little bit different. So that's at the end of the day, right? You can't control the schedule, and as any coach will tell you, they'll give you coaches speak. You control what you can control.
Right. Yep.
And the more prime time games, I believe at the end of the day, helps visibility for the program.
For sure. Will definitely help recruiting.
No question. Visibility for the program. Let's get to Tom Izzo for a second. Got a few choice words for him. Damn it. So does Kelvin. Coach, the hell you doing? Not to say you probably know a little more than I do, but Coach Izzo, to keep 10 scholarships, run that roll. You got that video?
We said we were going to wait till after the recruiting period, and then when that came, then I dealt with Adrian Payne's death and that stopped some interviewing that I did. But I feel good about where I'm at, and you got a lot of reasons to hire somebody. You want to kind of get somebody that's outside. Sometimes I've always liked to hire some guys inside, part of the family. And so the three guys I'm looking at are all part of the family. And I think that's going to be good for us.
So, Brian, who's the next assistant coach going to be?
Huh?
Who's the next assistant coach going to be?
You're going to wait to find out. We're not here to break news, but we'll let Coach announce it first. That's what we'll do.
Sounds good.
We'll go from there. And we're there, but we're not here to break news. So
sounds good.
If I had authority, I would tell you.
Sounds good.
If I can confirm something, and I have authority to confirm something, I will.
Sounds good.
If I make a prediction, I will tell you it's a prediction.
Sounds good.
So we're good. Let's get to the 10 scholarship players going forward. What do you I kind of like that's an interesting point, right? About can you keep 13 happy?
Izzo is right about not ever needing 13 players again. The only thing I would push back on is one more center probably would not have been over the top this year. Because, like, sure, Marcus Bingham.
Don't you dare push back, but go ahead. Good.
Yeah, but so, like, for example, Marcus Bingham probably didn't play as much as he should have early on in his career. So I totally see where Coach is coming from of not wanting to repeat that with a guy that has tons of potential in Jackson Kohler. And I 100% agree that 13 guys these days is probably overkill. And people that are only hung up on the number of scholarships probably have it wrong. With all of that said, I think having an unproven Mady Sissoko, an unproven Jackson Kohler, they can't really be too unhappy if they would have had one center from the portal. So I agree in theory, you don't need 11 or 12, 13. But if you have 10, all 10 of them better be, I guess, reliable. Not one of them kind of be redshirting this year as one of those 10 scholarships are.
It's one thing that I have learned over the years, and that you never doubt.
Yes,
Coach Izzo. I mean, and I like I said it before. I think this is where he thrives best is when he's being doubted, and so while there are many MSU Twitter and many fan base. Many of our fan base have absolutely, gone bonkers about how this offseason has been handled. There are 8 banners hung up there for a reason. And so the question becomes is adaptation to this new era of college sports. So I kind of agree with him. I think it's hard to keep 13 happy.
Yeah. I don't think you need 13 because you think about how many you play. You play 8 or 9.
Yeah, I agree, because if they're not happy, they're in the portal. It's just a different, it's a different. I remember when I played, right? I wanted to leave Michigan State. I was not happy, and my dad told me, shut your mouth. You get back in there, and you listen to everything George Perlis said.
Yeah.
And it's just a different environment.
Yeah.
We can argue all day long. Have the kids changed? Have they gotten softer? Have they X, Y, Z? We can, but I also think the parents have changed. I've changed. I see the way I am with my kids. I used to get my ass kicked for snow days. Yeah, because I was lazy. It had nothing to do with it. And now I'm cheering for my kids when they have snow days because they can sleep in and order pizza. Yeah. So I would argue that the parents have changed more than the kids. I can recall the trustee, one of the first times Izzo called me to come see, let's have a chat. Yeah. I was terrified. I was, here I am, and I'm his quote unquote boss. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, what are we going to talk about? Yeah. What's he upset about? What did I do? I'm going to the principal's office. And I think it's more of that coach-player relationship, you know. Heading over there, I'm thinking to myself, I'm my player, my boss, and I got in there and he chewed. And I'm not gonna say I got my ass chewed, but he kind of chewed, and I took it as a former player. Yeah, I thought it was like, all right, it's Coach Izzo. Yeah, so I just love him. I have so much respect for him, and so I never doubt him. Yeah, I mean, he's just so open, honest, and frank, and. I think he'll figure this out. And if he doesn't figure it out, it's over. Time to move on. But, I believe he'll figure this out. He will. He'll figure it out. And it's that adaptation, right? Yeah. Adapt or die. Yeah. And that's really what it boils down to. Rocket Watts. Want to congratulate Rocket Watts, heading to Oakland University. Proud of you, Rocket Watts. Congrats. We wish you all the best in the world, and we hope you much success coming back home. And so, as a former Spartan dog, we're all cheering for you. So, on to our guest. Can we play that trailer, Owen? Kelvin Tolbert joins the show.
When a guy doesn't make it, like KT, it bothers me every day still. One day I was showing the staff his highlights from high school. Then we decided, what's wrong,
Watching, man, he was so talented. I definitely looked up to him as a kid growing up.
in the layup line. K got up and dunked the ball at 10 years old. It was on my radar when he was in 8th grade, honestly. Maybe 7th. Because as you remember, he was a man-child even back then. He was birthed with that talent. That ain't nothing like you can just get taught.
Great mid-range.
I know I can do this.
Defense.
I know I can do that.
I really honestly felt like nobody could stop me. I could do whatever I wanted every time. I didn't care if my daddy was out there. I was going to attack him.
This kid is a dunking machine.
I'm past this of being the best player in the state. I want everybody knowing I'm the best player in the country, and that was my whole drive going into my senior year.
You can't forget about his legacy because for the simple fact that what he did for the city of Flint.
Kelvin Tolbert is definitely a legend in my book.
He had everything there was to have, and things just sometimes don't work out.
They don't see what's behind closed doors or what that kid is going through. Well, here we go.
Kelvin Tolbert supposed to join the show when we're having a little bit of technical difficulties. And see if you can get a hold of him. He was.
So Brian, what do you remember about Kelvin's playing career?
Oh my God, 2001 Gatorade Player of the Year. I remember when he came to MSU. You know, he was a human highlight film. You know who he reminded me of? He reminded me of Dominique Wilkins. Remember him?
Yeah, I've heard of him. Didn't see him play.
Atlanta Hawks, and he was incredible, absolutely incredible. The skill, he could jump out of the gym, and you know, very rarely do we get a Gatorade National Player of the Year in Michigan.
Yeah.
How often has that happened?
Yeah, I probably couldn't tell you. I know, obviously, there was a recent one, but Amani Bates. But yeah, like other than that, I couldn't remember the last. Because National's a huge deal. That's basically like saying you're the #1 player in the nation. That's Gatorade's version of making you the top high school player in the nation.
I mean, he could jump out of the gym. I remember when we signed him, I said, wow, we got ourselves an absolute stud.
Yeah.
You know, he was somebody that, and, you know, he wrote a book, All In, and it was, you know, I'd love to hear his input, his take on, you know, just what, how he was able to, you know, what transpired at MSU.
Yeah.
His Coach Izzo stories. And, just some of the stuff that transpired at Michigan State, but
yeah,
I remember watching him in high school, and you know, back then Flint was the mecca of high school basketball.
Yeah,
Burston Gym, right? I mean, they all went. Antonio, Mateen, Charlie, Marquise Gray. I mean, you can go on and on and on. Morris Peterson, Kelvin, they all grew up there, right?
Yeah,
and it was you know, that's how you developed your street cred. That's how you developed your ability to just develop that reputation as one of the top players. Do you remember him, or were you too young?
So he played from 2001 to 2005, I believe. So he started playing there when I was 3, and he left when I was 7. So obviously I've seen the YouTube
What do you mean
highlights.
3 and 7?
Age 3 and age 7. But yeah, so I've seen the YouTube highlight videos, and electric. Him, Jason Richardson, some of these high-flying Spartans that I know Miles Bridges recently kind of took that mold too, but like those are rare guys. Like you don't see those guys jumping out the gym like that, having that kind of athleticism, especially at that age. Like you kind of take it for granted these days, like the NBA dunk competition and stuff, but you got to remember how old these kids are and just kind of the competition level that they're playing in, and the stuff he was doing in those videos I've seen is definitely special.
Let me ask you a question. So when you were growing up, like who did you idolize at MSU basketball?
Honestly, it was Coach Izzo. It was
really
because players come and go, right?
They do.
Players come and go.
Staples are the staples, right?
I would say it's not when I was growing up, but when I was at Michigan State, my time overlapped with 3 of Cassius Winston's 4 years.
Oh.
And like by then, like you're the same age as
we got to get him on.
Yeah. By then you're like the same age as the players, so you don't like idolize them, but like you kind of respect them. Like you know the daily grind of a college student, then you multiply that by 1,000 with what they go through, the pressure that's on their shoulders, leading an entire fan base. Obviously, we knew the stuff he went through in his personal life with his brother's passing. And to do all that, become the Big Ten's all-time assist leader, and just every time I saw him, whether it was out and about on the street, whether it was at a party or whatever, always the nicest dude, just like you thought he would be from afar. So I would say out of the players that like I really, really just respected and always rooted for good things for them, it would be Cassius Winston for sure. But growing up, it was more the mainstay of Tom Izzo himself more than any individual player.
I think that's what college basketball has become, right? It's more about the face of the program.
Yeah.
Right? And, you know, are you coming there because of the coach, or are you coming there because of the program?
Mm-hmm.
And because Coach Izzo built that pipeline from Flint,
right,
starting with Antonio Smith,
mm-hmm.
and then leading into Mateen and Morris and Charlie.
Yeah.
And then Kelvin,
yeah.
and then just Marquise, and really building that pipeline of the Flintstones and
yeah.
just the Flint talent, really, which put Michigan State basketball on the map.
Right.
It's ironic to me that Flint put Michigan State basketball on the map and not Detroit.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
That's something that's very ironic to me, you know. But Kelvin wrote a book called, do we have the graphic all in? Do we have that graphic? Can we get a hold of him? Is he not answering? I got you. Technical difficulties. There it is. So Kelvin, all in. And I think that's a very interesting story, because Flint is an interesting story.
Yeah, yeah.
It's an interesting city, you know, from you know, the issues they had with their water,
right,
and just just the community they grew up in, right? I mean,
yeah.
when you look at the inner cities, Flint embodies a lot of the inner cities,
yeah.
The urban areas within the country,
mm-hmm.
and to be able. Let's go back to that national championship game, 2000. Think about how many kids were on that team
yeah.
from one city.
Yeah.
How rare is that?
You don't see it these days.
Right?
You don't see it.
Morris, Peterson, Charlie Bell, Mateen.
Yeah.
Antonio was not on the national championship team.
Right.
But I mean, how often do you see that many young men from one city winning a national championship?
Yeah, it's almost like a storybook, kind of a movie in Hollywood type of scenario. Like these days, even if there is a town that has all those players, like they'll transfer, they'll go prep school somewhere else, and you don't get that kind of narrative. But those guys, they stayed together and they went to their in-state school and they won them an Natty. Just quite a story.
Will Coach Izzo win another Natty?
I
With
think
11 scholarship players?
The way he's recruiting the high school ranks, he has not missed a beat. The way you look at he's recruiting Xavier Booker, the way you look at how he's identifying talent more than anything. So they offered Devin Royal, Scotty Middleton, and Milan Momcilovic, 3 small forwards in the past few months. All of them skyrocketed up the 24/7 Sports rankings last week.
How about Booker? How many places did he jump?
87 spots. He went from 91st in the nation to 4th in the nation. And Xavier Booker, he's a guy that is as much of a priority for Michigan State as possible. He's a guy that Tom Izzo has gone to more of his games than any other coach in the nation. So that's if the family's looking at like who's showing the most interest, who is actually walking the talk, that's Tom Izzo. And you kind of see what Jaren Jackson from Indiana, similar wingspan, similar recruiting ranking. Look at how he's doing in the NBA. Some people try to discount the fact that, oh, okay, that's a 5-star, so of course he's going to go with the NBA. No, Jaren was not a top 5-star. And then you add in the upperclassmen that you compete against in college that are also in the draft pool. You add in the international players that also soak into the same draft pool. It is not a concrete scenario where just because you're a 5-star, you're going to be a top NBA draft pick. You have to go to the right situation and get the right development, and then you can maybe go from 5-star status to being a top 5 pick. But it's not as concrete as people make it seem. And Coach Izzo developed Jaren in a way that would be a blueprint for how Xavier Booker would be developed. Pretty much a Jaren Jackson clone, if you look at it. He has a smooth outside stroke, probably even better than Jaren at this point. He has great touch around the rim. He has a really long wingspan, always blocking shots. So I think right here, if you look at Xavier Booker and I guess the sales pitch that should most resonate I think a Jaren Jackson blueprint should be something that really, really grabs his eye.
How did Xavier Booker? Let's get them for a second.
Yeah.
How many bags was he offered? I mean, he's skyrocketed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did we bring attention onto him, Michigan State University? Did we bring attention onto him? Now that Duke offered him, how did he end up on the map?
Yeah, so Coach Izzo was one of the original offers out of this next level of talent of schools that kind of go ahead and offer these guys. Like, yeah, there was Ohio State, there was Purdue and those schools, but like Michigan State offered him a few months ago when Tom Izzo was, actually they offered him about a year ago, but a few months ago Izzo really, really took off in terms of the effort he was putting in. And 2 days after Michigan State's season ended against Duke, Izzo was in Indiana attending all the games. Even in-state coach Mike Woodson wasn't there, and I know he caught the ire of the fans because of that. But yeah, so Izzo really, really started prioritizing him the second Michigan State season ended and stayed on him heavy. And Duke is now trying to come in here and jump in afterwards, and we'll see what happens there. But I think Michigan State has a strong sales pitch of you can be the next Jaren Jackson, and we have the proof in the pudding to kind of show what we can develop.
Well, I'll tell you, it's I heard Duke's new coach, what's his name?
John Shire.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I heard he's dominating recruiting.
Yes.
He's doing very well.
He is. That is the case.
And so, can we still compete with the Blue Bloods? What's your thoughts?
I think it'll depend on how the rest of the 2023 class shapes up. If they land Xavier Booker, I think a lot hinges on Xavier Booker. So if they land Xavier Booker, they land either Devin Royal or Scotty Middleton, and then you land a Milan Momcilovic. You already have Jeremy Fears, who I think is a great, great guard. You're starting to have one of your best, most well-rounded classes in a long time. And if you look at the 2021 class, and obviously Max Christie's tenure was shorter than expected, but Jaden Akins, I expect him to have a huge leap. Pierre Brooks should be a guy that in his junior and senior years really, really contributes. So that's a really solid 2021 class. 2022, they had a miss or two here and there, but other than like Ty Rodgers and Jaden Schutt, I guess you can consider those losses. But when Izzo missed out on Isaac Trout, he pivoted to a guy on the other side of the nation in Jackson Kohler. And at the final update of the 2022 recruiting rankings, Jackson Kohler finished ahead of Isaac Trout. So that is one of the most impressive pivots I've seen from Tom Izzo in a long time. So you look at the 2021 class, you look at the 2022 class, which yes, you ideally would have liked to have one more guy in there, but that's fine. Now 2023, you're so far so good. So right now, from a high school standpoint, I think, yeah, Michigan State can compete with the Blue Bloods. It's just, are they going to do enough to fill in the cracks if there ever are any, which in college sports, there always are cracks. You're not going to be loaded at every position every year. So I guess maybe like if you're ever low on a position, I'd like to see maybe a guy filled in here and there. But other than that.
Hold on. I heard somebody in my mic. Is he on?
I'm here.
Kelvin.
How you doing?
How's my brother doing? We got Kelvin Tolbert on the line. We got a little bit of technical difficulties here. How you doing, my brother?
I'm doing good.
Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate you joining us. We watched the trailer. Sorry we couldn't get you on here on Zoom. Tell us a little bit about your book and your story, please, so we can. Oh, there he is, right there. You look trim. You look like you look like you're playing weight.
I wish. That's a lot of camera, man. That camera
puts on a few pounds, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Tell us about your book, Kelvin.
Basically, it's all-in story. I co-wrote it with my buddy Eric Woodyard, worked for ESPN, the Detroit Lions. It's basically a chance to tell my story. You know, everybody has their reason of what happened or why everything didn't go right within like Michigan State and pro and things of that nature. And now it's basically a chance for me to give my chance to sit down and just tell what happened, like for me to open up and let everybody know my side of the story and the ups and the downs of everything that I went through.
So, like, just give us a synopsis. Tell me what happened that you would like what made you finally tell your story?
I mean, in all honesty, just being around back home and around the city and neighborhood and just hearing. It's funny, you hear people come up to you and tell you things that went wrong and why you didn't make it or why you wasn't in the NBA and those things. And the stories were so far off, man. It was like, you guys really don't know what happened or what I've been through or what I tried to do. And it's funny that all the rumors and the false accusations started and things of that nature.
So what rumors, what fault, educate us a little bit about what were you hearing that made you say, hey, I need to write a book. I need to tell people my story.
I mean, just basically, you hear about everybody goes with the bus thing. He was a bus, he didn't make it, he didn't do that. And I mean, it's funny, even last week I heard somebody saying that, oh, we heard you got into some drug issues and problems, and it just tickled me because I've never done a drug in my life, and that's the stories that are getting portrayed out here by people in the neighborhood and in the streets, and like just being around, it was like, okay, let me tell you guys what happened to me. Like, it's real life stories. It's not just a kid that didn't make it because of basketball. It was a 18-year-old that went through a lot, that had to learn a lot from being able to grow up and really mature myself. I mean, going through the loss of parents at an early age, going through depression, going through the mental issues and mental struggles that you don't see with college kids and early kids in their early 19s and 20s. And those are all the things I went through. Like, I went through being 18, 19 years old and hearing people in the media and grown men telling me that I was a bust. I'm not going to make it. I didn't do what I was supposed to do. And you don't realize that those things do affect kids. They do affect young adults. And you have to fight your way out of it. And that's basically what my books and the story is telling. Like, from me going from the highest of highs to the lowest of lows and still being able to bounce back and be a successful young man in this world. So it just tells that and explains how no matter the failures that you have or the things that don't go your way, you can still bounce back on your 2 feet and still roll. That's a great story, and I think you speak on a very important issue that a lot of people these days take for granted. Because a lot of people these days, like, they see these college kids, they see all the glitz and glamour and all the fans they have, but at the end of the day, when they're at their dorm room at night and they're scrolling through Twitter and they're seeing people criticize a basket they miss or a pass they drop, they're isolated, they're alone. They don't have those fans there anymore suddenly telling them how good they are and all this. So people really forget the human factor that the student athletes go through these days, and I think that's a great angle here that your book gets at. And I guess, first of all, before we go any further, how can someone acquire your book? Basically, it's on Amazon. It's right on Amazon. All in the Kelvin Tolbert story. It should pop right up. We're also selling it at the local bookstore here in Flint called the Comma Bookstore, downtown Flint. And those basically the 2 locations we have them right now. Okay. And, we're planning on expanding, probably put in a few more stores and just to get it out there a little bit more. Yeah. So everyone listening, open up Amazon. You know, Kelvin, you touched on a very interesting point to me, because so when I came to MSU to play football, I was sheltered. I didn't grow up in a world where, the greatest thing about diversity and about just teaching about other cultures is the locker room. And so I thought everybody had the same chance in life that I had. I thought everybody had a 2-parent home, stable income, make a living, work at the factory. There's a lot of things that I took for granted that when I got to MSU, I didn't realize
that some of these young men were getting really dropped into China. Just totally different environment. Didn't know anything about it. Quite frankly, never been around white people. Never been around other cultures. Didn't know how to adapt. And it took me a while to learn about, man, this is just not that easy. It's not, you just cannot take people out of their environment and expect them to adapt. And talk a little bit about like just adapting and the expectations and just being able to go from Flint to China.
It's a real culture shock. I don't think a lot of people understand.
They
that.
don't.
Just being
They don't. You're
being
right.
a kid from Flint, coming up in a single parent home, where I mostly grew up with just my dad and 3 other brothers. So I grew up in a situation where you got what you got, or you basically had to fight for it. You know, it was times we had to fight for that last sandwich, that last piece of chicken, and I was the youngest, and I didn't win a lot of times. So it's those type of things that they don't realize. And then getting up to Michigan State and basically being on your own, learning that you had to grow up and learn things on your own. And everybody see the college athlete and they think all these college athletes got it made. It's not like they think it is. I mean, definitely it's a lot better now with the NIL. But
sure.
When we were there, we only got a couple of dollars, and it was times where at night where we're all sitting in our apartments, sitting in our dorm room, and we're all scrambling up dollars so we can get a hot and ready so we can eat at night, and things like that. And they don't understand. They think that it's all sugar coated, like just because we're on TV, we're at the big games, and like they don't see us at night. They don't see us in that dorm room trying to figure out how we gonna eat at night. It was times where I had to go to pool halls and hustle guys to win money so we can eat. And it's funny because they don't see that part of it, and they don't know that part of like these college kids or these athletes. And it's a soft situation because a lot of them are coming from inner city homes or inner city families that never really had to get out there and try to grind and make it on their own.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, there's all those stories in your book are very intriguing, and people should definitely look into it. But in terms of some positive stories, what about a funny or interesting memory of Tom Izzo that you look back on and you're like, yep, that's prototypical Tom Izzo?
He scared the hell out of me, and I was a trustee. So, I mean, I'm sure he chewed your what out several times. But give us a funny Izzo story, please. We had him on a couple weeks ago. Give us a funny Izzo story.
I think it's one encounter. I think I did put it in the book. I think we were playing UCLA at home. I think it might have been my senior or junior year, and we're playing up and down. We're probably losing a little bit, and he calls a timeout, and coach just rips me to shreds.
Shocker.
I'm talking about you stink. You're terrible. You're supposed to be a leader. You're out here losing. You're not doing what you're supposed to do. And it kind of boiled up, and I turned around to him, and I was like, well, you ain't called a good play all night. You ain't made the right calls. You ain't done what we're supposed to do to win this game. And we kind of went back and forth for about 30 seconds. And then right before the timeout was over, we didn't call a play or draw up nothing. He looked at me, and he said, okay, well, go get me a basket then. I think that next play I ended up hitting a three-pointer, and I'm like, pound my chest looking at him. I'm like, I told you I got this. And it's hilarious, man. It's a lot of stories that we had that you look back, and it's fun, you know. In the moment, you're like, damn, he's on my back. He's riding me. But now after, it's like, man, it was fun. It was what he was supposed to do. We were all kids. We didn't know. Like, he knew how to win, and we didn't. So he was ultimately teaching us. And now you look back on it, you kind of regret a few things. But I think we did get it together at the right time to make a pretty decent run.
You know how many people have said that to me, the former players, now they look back on it and they realize he had your back. He was loyal. He knew what he's preparing you for life, right? And it's so funny because George Perlis was the same to me. Nick Saban was the same to me. You know, and it's funny because we had, I know you work for Matt Ishbia right now at UWM. So we had the coach on a couple weeks ago, and I was asking him, so like, who was your best recruit, Mateen or Ish? He goes, Mateen was, but there's no question, Matt Ishbia was the best recruit that I ever had, But it's funny, those stories that you're telling us, right? Because we're old school. We all got our asses chewed. GP used to chew me, Saban used to chew me, and I look back then, I'm like, man, why'd they ride me like that, And then all these life lessons, right, through life and how it helped us adapt and adjust to life. These were all life lessons, and you learn. And I was fortunate enough to grow up in a two-parent home, and so I can, when I played at MSU, a lot of my brothers, that they were afraid to go out at night. They didn't want to leave a house party. They didn't trust anybody. They didn't trust the police. They didn't want to go anywhere. Like, they were I never understood the why. Never understood till I began to understand where they came from. And I said, okay, now this makes sense to me. Did you feel that when you were at MSU? Did you, the culture shock, right? I mean, that was was that one of your biggest factors, you think?
Yeah, that definitely was one of the biggest factors. Definitely coming from Flint and just seeing the things that you were getting a chance to witness at college. Just being able to go out and hang out and party and doing those things. And when you're growing up, where we grew up from, you're getting out, you're like, oh, no, there go the police. We got to go.
Yeah.
And it was times where we were out on campus and the police were actually like, hey, y'all need to get out of here. Y'all play basketball, I play football, get out of here. And it was like, you never seen that side. It was that, okay, you going down with me. And for us to see that from that angle and seeing that things are different, a little bit different in the world, and you can't adjust. I mean, that was a great thing for us through campus. It taught me how to relate more to the real world and not be stuck in that bubble of living that bubble, what you grow up in. And I tell a lot of people that now, like, you have to get out and view the world, explore the world, learn new things. And that's the biggest thing that I think I've got out of my adventures and stuff, being able to travel and live in so many different countries. It's so many different cultures and so many different things, and you get a real perspective of life. Everything ain't as bad as you think. It's so many people out there that got it worse. I mean, you might have it bad, but it's people that really have it worse. And you just have to play with the cards you dealt and make the best out of them. And that's what I try to lead on to all kids now. Definitely try to pump that into my own son and just any younger generation. I try to tell them that live life. Don't be scared to enjoy yourself and live these days, because you can't get them back. Every day I wish I could go back and say I was 19, 20, 21 and live those days.
Yeah,
and it's just, time is one of the biggest things that we take for granted. Even just watching now with guys, just so many guys dying, teammates, and even with the AP situation hitting us so hard. It's like it's a situation that he's not even that type of guy. And he's just in the wrong place at the wrong time. And it's sad. And so now it's like you just have to enjoy every day the best you can.
So when you left Flint and got to MSU and you got your first approached by a cop and got your first parking ticket at Case or Wonders, what were you thinking? It's a little bit different, right?
Oh, it's definitely different. My first thing was like, oh shit, I gotta tell Coach about this. And the best thing was, man, Coach had our back a lot of times.
Oh yeah, he's the most loyal. Oh yeah.
Give us that ticket. We're gonna have to make payments on it. You're gonna have to pay $10 here, $10 there, or we're gonna take it from your per diem money and we'll pay it off. And now with something you didn't see, it was like you came back with that ticket, you're like, oh shit, I might not play, or I might have to sit out this game. And he was really real with us. Okay, we all get parking tickets. It's okay. We all park at a meter too long. We all park at Case when we're supposed to. And I mean, it was one of those learning experiences that it helped us grow up as men. And the thing he did was keep us as a family. He always taught us to have each other's back. Like, even if we were in a classroom, if I was struggling and Alan knew the stuff, his thing was, Alan, you better make sure KT get the shit so he knows it. Or if I knew it and Chris Hill didn't know it, that was his thing. You better help Chris so he can get through it. And always taught us to have a brotherhood and be a family.
So, Kelvin, on that note, so I didn't even play for Coach Izzo, and it still irritates me, the perception that I see. But, like, when you're, like, looking at ESPN or whatever, and you see people are criticizing Izzo for his latest talking to that he gives a player on the sideline, what goes through your mind with the way that he's perceived? And you know him as a person, and you know where his intentions lie. So what is your, like, response emotionally to just the way that sometimes the media tries to portray him?
It's funny to me because it gives an image that you really don't know this guy. He's so fired up during games that he wants to win almost more than the player. So that competitive edge of him is coming out. Like, he's fired up all the time, man. Even the guys that you've seen him yelling at, or the things you've seen with the Gabe Browns and things like that, where did Gabe go?
Right.
Gabe stayed there. He went through his 4 years. After he graduated, he gave Coach one of the biggest hugs he ever had.
Ever.
So that tells you that every one of those kids that he yelled at, that he talked to, they love him to death, and they would do anything for him. And that's why we continue to have success and continue to get guys to come back and do things, just because of that, the family atmosphere and the love that he shows to us as kids that we can't take back, and we all wish we still had right now to this day.
You know, it was funny because I was watching him. I forgot which game it was, and they had like a camera huddle, right? Like in between timeouts. And he was going, all right, guys, let's go. he saw the camera on him, right? All right, guys, let's go. And I just I texted Bokrakas, Timmy Bokrakas. I'm like, I'm sure that's exactly how those huddles go. And we couldn't stop. We couldn't stop laughing because
who is this guy?
Yeah, we all know how those huddles go, right? I mean, when hearing from the boys, I was laughing my tail off, man. I was cracking up, man. So we appreciate you joining us, Kelvin, and tell us one more time. So we want to get your book. We're going to go buy your book on Amazon.com. Where else can we get it from?
Also at the Comma bookstore, downtown Flint. It's there. They got probably 20 to 50 copies right now that they still have, and we continue to push them in there. And make sure you get them and check it out, get a read, get a good chance to really understand me and what I went through.
You know what? I want to read that, and we love Flint, and Dearborn has a special place in my heart, just like Flint. That's your home, man. It's got a special place in your heart, and so you always be a Spartan dog, brother. I appreciate you joining us, and tell Matt we said hello, and God bless, and we appreciate you joining us, and go green.
Go white. And make sure you let Matt know that was our connection problem, was his computer. That's our work computer that wasn't working. So
you know what? I'm gonna make some. You know what? I'm gonna call some of the IT folks now. I'm glad you told me. I'm gonna send an email right now.
Exactly.
Thank you for joining us, Kelvin.
Thank you for joining us, Kelvin Tolbert. Appreciate you. Have a good night, brother. We'll be in touch soon. Okay. Take care, Kelvin.
All right. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
That's Kelvin Tolbert. All in. Can purchase on Amazon.com as well as the bookstore in Flint. You said the Commoner, I believe you said?
The Comma, yep.
Yeah, the Comment. So that was his great insight. Coach, those stories are the greats. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight. I am your co-host, Brian Mosallam, along with my co-host, Justin Thind. Justin, thank you for joining us.
Yep.
Thank you, everybody. Good night, and go green, and God bless.
He stumped him. He stumped him. He stumped him. Nice block. Wow. Great penetration. Surge through the middle of that. Michigan State first and goal. Touchdown.